trip is we went to Asan, and I was introduced to the chief executive of the YI SOON SHIN Institute at Soonchunhyang University. And his name is Professor Chung, and he has basically been my main consultant for the series, and he's helped me a lot with my research. He's introduced me to a lot of people in the Korean Army and Navy who have been extremely helpful in helping me obtain information.
Wow. Did you get to step on the Kabuksan?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah?
How was that experience?
It was amazing. I mean, I had spent years reading about this, and it's like actually stepping on, it's like getting in the driver's seat of the Batmobile. It's, you know, it's just amazing.
So you got to go inside the Kabuksan, the replica of Kabuksan. Yeah. How big is it?
Well, this was a replica ship. The actual Kobuksan
was it much bigger? Was it?
Well, I don't know if it was bigger. I think it was about the same size. All those ships were either destroyed or taken apart hundreds of years ago. But this ship was just a replica. It wasn't the exact look of how the turtle ship was. What I noticed immediately, and Professor Chung actually helped me realize this, is the original turtle ship had the head was attached to the actual hull of the ship, and they would shoot cannons and sulfur out of it to make it look like it was this big dragon ship. But I also heard that the dragon head on the ship was not made to intimidate the Japanese. It was actually there for beauty.
He had to think of a lot of things to make Kobuksan look good.
Yeah, but in our comic, we actually wanted it to be scary and intimidating. And,
I see.
Yeah.
So that's a different thing between the actual historical event and the comic book. The Kabuksan was actually Admiral Yi Soon Shin invented it to look good. Did you say just now?
He didn't invent it to look good. He invented it to penetrate through enemy lines. It had iron plates at the top that kept it from kept the Japanese from boarding it, so they could shoot at it. And
Okay, let's talk about the comic book. You brought your comic book for us today, and it's the cover. This is the cover. These are actually the small ones.
Yeah, these are the
editions.
single issue books, right?
Okay. Now, when was it first published then? The first episode?
The first issue you're holding in your hand there, that was published at the end of 2009, and we actually finished the production on it on the 416th anniversary of the Battle of Akpo.
Wow. How did you feel when it first came out?
It was very. I knew that I had my work cut out for me. It wasn't something that I could put out there and say, okay, my work is done. My work was just getting started at that point, and it's still going. So.
Now, there are so many names on it. Now, who's who?
I'm so glad you asked. The artist for the book is Giovanni Timpano. He's based out of Italy, and he does all of the penciling and inking for the book, which is almost unheard of in the industry. Not a lot of artists do handle both tasks. There's usually a penciler, and then you hire an inker separately. He does the whole package.
Wow.
And he does it so wonderfully. His inks are just out of this world.
Does he do it digitally? Or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He does it digitally. I've actually never met Gio before in my life, and he's coming to San Diego in July, and we're going to meet for the first time out there and sell books together at a convention. So.
And who are other gentlemen?
The next person is our colorist, and she is a woman from Argentina. Her name is Adriana de los Santos, and she is a digital painter who just completely blows my mind. Every single time I see her work, I'm just, you know, I never expect you can never expect anything less than perfection from Adriana. And her work just comes together so well when she's doing Gio's stuff. And then there's our letterer, Joel Saavedra. He's also from Argentina, and I met him through Adriana. He does all the lettering, like the title and all the balloons inside the book. That's all Joel. And then the last person is my co-writer and editor, David Anthony Kraft. Dave has 30 years of experience working at Marvel Comics and DC Comics under his belt. He's also done some work for TV and other stuff like that. So him and I work very closely together. Because my duties are so widespread, Dave comes on board and we build the story together, and he's a huge component in everything that we're doing.
So this is a true global project, because you have invited so many artists from different parts of the world. How were you able to find these people from living in different parts of the world? Wouldn't it have been easier for you to find someone in your neighborhood or in Chicago area?
I had some experiences before when I first decided that I wanted to, YI SOON SHIN was my first real project, but before that I had another experiment, and I worked with some people from my college, and I didn't pay them. They were just kind of like doing stuff for exposure and things like that, and it really taught me that I don't need to limit myself to what's around me.
Okay.
I can always look outside, and with the internet today, I mean, there's really the possibilities are endless. You can look anywhere and work with anybody.
And I heard that you had some difficulty finding the right publisher.
Actually, we still have not found a publisher.
How were you able to publish it?
Well, I did it myself. Dave has had a lot of experience publishing. He used to put out a magazine called The Comics Interview, which was extremely popular in the U.S. in the 80s and 90s. And he brought a lot of expertise in, and I never wanted to be a publisher. It was just something I was straying away from. But Dave, he was like, I love this stuff, and he got me into it. And now it's just something that just feels second nature to me. I love putting out my book. I love knowing that when I present my customers with a final book, that it came out exactly the way I wanted it to. And not a lot of people in the industry can say that. I speak with a lot of professionals, and they tell me that they don't even want to see the end product because there's so many people that make edits to it, and it doesn't turn out the way it does when they see it printed.
Let's talk about the story of YI SOON SHIN.
Sure.
Now, you know much more about Admiral YI SOON SHIN than I do. Which battle is the most remarkable one to you?
Most people will say that Myeongnyang is the most amazing battle of all time, but for me, it's always been and it always will be Akpo, because like this, you have to think about like the scenario surrounding this battle. The Koreans had gone 3 weeks with losing every single skirmish with the Japanese. The Japanese were just plowing into Korea. The king had abandoned his throne. He was moving up north into Pyongyang, and things were just a mess. And every naval commander except for YI SOON SHIN was just completely, they didn't know what to do. There was Park Hong, who destroyed all of his ships, and then Won Kyun had 100 ships, and he destroyed all of them except for 4. And here was YI SOON SHIN. He wasn't doing anything, and everybody was like, what's going on? Well, he was waiting to get orders from the king to attack the enemy. So imagine how the people of Korea must have felt when, after losing so many times and thinking, we're done, it's over, here's someone who turns the tables completely. He comes in and he annihilates the Japanese. He brings everything back from the brink. And that is the definition of a hero. Myeongnyang is probably more well known because of the fact that it's such a historic battle and the odds were so incredible. But YI SOON SHIN, he faced these kinds of odds every single time. It wasn't just at Myeongnyang; it was at every other battle as well. So
when American readers read your comic books, what did their response like? What was their response like?
We've had very, very positive responses from our readership, and that's something we take a lot of pride in. Aside from commenting on how beautiful the artwork is, a lot of people are really interested in the story. They always want more, and we're ready to give it to them. It's just we want to make sure we give them a good product, so we take our time with everything.
Now, it's very difficult for us to actually compare characters in comic books like Spider-Man or Superman that are just imaginary characters to an actual historical living person. What would you say is the most charming point about Admiral Yi as a person, I would say?
Well, first and foremost, unlike any superhero you'll ever read about in a comic book, none of them existed. YI SOON SHIN, he existed. He is the real deal. He is what inspired heroes like Spider-Man and Superman and all this stuff. So not directly, but through his character. If people like this never existed, there would be nothing to define these superheroes. So for me, that was the one thing that really popped out.
Let's take a quick break here and take a look at this video that we put together because we sent a camera to follow you to YI SOON SHIN Festival.
Yeah,
shall we?
Great. Yeah.
And was this your first time visiting YI SOON SHIN Festival?
Yeah, it was. It was, and I was pleasantly surprised with what I found over here. It was cool. They had like these water fights over here, and kids would throw water balloons at each other, and they were like forming up cannons. And they had like water guns, like arrows and stuff like that. So it was like actual naval warfare out in the street. It was cool.
This was in Asan.
Yeah, this is in Asan. This is YI SOON SHIN's home village. And he's buried not too far from
I see.
where the festival takes place.
I wonder what aspects of YI SOON SHIN that Korean people are not aware of.
YI SOON SHIN also had a very difficult life. He was not known for coming to fame until until
Later
a very
part
later
of his
point
life.
in his life. Yeah.
And this is?
The Hyungcheonsa Shrine. This is where YI SOON SHIN's home is, and that's actually his home. That's where he grew up in Asan.
Wow. So he was born in Asan and he's buried in Asan.
Yeah, him and his wife are buried in the same tomb.
I see.
Yeah, it was cool too to see. It's so crazy to read about all this stuff and to sell these books, and then, you know, I go to conventions all the time, and everybody's always dressed up as Spider-Man and Batman and everything. It's so different to come to Korea and see everybody dressed up as YI SOON SHIN.
This is your first time visiting, or
no? That was actually my third time visiting the Hyungcheonsa Shrine. Yeah. A lot of people are gathered here today because it's the weekend of Admiral Yi's birthday, so everybody's coming here today to pay respect. I mean, it's just amazing. You see how many people go out of their way to come here and just pay tribute to Korea's greatest hero. And we definitely don't do that in America. It's just insane.
There were actually flowers sent by the president of Korea. That must have been an interesting experience for you too. Yeah. This is
Seoul Art College. 안녕하십니까. Here, so here I kind of walk everybody through a panel by panel look at how we make the books, just to give them an idea of like where you put word balloons, like so that you don't crowd the art, and explaining like why we did certain things, and also kind of giving students confidence to sell their work. It's a very difficult thing to get out there and talk to people, and everybody's got ideas. Everybody who's in the field of art eventually wants to be doing this stuff for a living.
Now, in your comic book, does Admiral Lee have a sense of humor? Or do we see that part of him at all?
Absolutely not. No, he's all business, and that's something that we did to differentiate him from the show. This is not your daddy's YI SOON SHIN.
Well, what about love stories of YI SOON SHIN? Do we get a glimpse of that as well?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
we do.
Okay. And that's something we took some liberty to fictionalize. It's not a love story that ends particularly well, and we didn't want to get too involved in that because we didn't want to, because we're fictionalizing it, we didn't want to insult Korean history at all by, or Koreans, by doing something that was too far out of bounds.
Okay. Then, what did you have to take out of the history, and what did you add to the history?
Some of the things we took out, there were some redundant cases that occurred throughout the naval base. Like there were some cases where soldiers would try and abandon their posts, and YI SOON SHIN